Welcome back to the Chatters Box. My name is Kyle McClellan, your host, and today I am joined by a former teammate of mine. I look at you putting the bling on.
I'm putting my Albert chain on.
On.
It's, well, spotlight's on right now.
So, Brendan Ryan and I go back 2004. We're teammates.
Yep.
So we've known each other almost 20 years. So This is going to be a fun one. And I am happy to officially welcome Brendan Ryan into the Chatters Box. Thank you for stepping in.
Very excited to be here.
What are you doing here?
I don't know. I honestly, I feel like they got names mixed up or something. Like, I got a bobblehead going on. Like, this is like, I did not play well enough for this kind of attention. But I'm not going to tell them that.
Right. Just keep tricking them.
I guess I just messed that up.
Keep tricking them.
Yeah.
So let's go back. Me and you have known each other for a long, long time. And I was thinking about on the way down here. Mm-hmm. I want to be respectful in this podcast.
Okay.
And I think you understand I respect you. But you are totally different than any person I've ever come across in baseball. And this isn't a bad, like, people might hear this and be like, oh man, but like you embrace this.
Sure,
you understand this.
Yeah.
I literally think of Brendan Ryan as like my son's 10.
That's a good start.
He's 9. He's about to be 10, and he's way more mature than you.
By far. I don't even know him.
So I feel like you're like a 4-year-old trapped in a 40-year-old body right now. But you played like that, and you were a teammate like that, and it's something that like everybody is drawn to you and attracted to you, and we'll get into that.
Okay.
But you have more fun than anybody I've ever been around playing the game.
Sure.
And so I want to talk about that a little bit. And it starts in, we played together in Peoria.
Yep.
In 2004.
Yep. I remember your apartment. I remember it flooding. I don't know if we can talk about that on the air, though.
That wasn't my doing.
That was not.
So we played together there. We were, me, you, and Matt Pagnazzi.
Yeah.
We're the only 3 on that team that started in Peoria and ended in Peoria. So everybody either went up or got called up through there. We were the only 3 that stayed there the entire year. Yep. You had a way more successful year than I did. Matt Pagnazzi probably had a more successful year than I did. But we were there all year together, and the thing that sticks out when I think of Brendan Ryan, I've never known anybody that tries to be as late as possible without being late.
Right.
Okay, so let's explain this.
Yeah. Think Indiana Jones.
Okay.
Yeah. With the hat and all that.
Yeah.
That's kind of, it's a good feeling to just make it. I mean, let's be honest. Having perfect change, those kind of things, it feels good.
Okay,
it
feels good.
Helps you, you're alive, when you just barely make it.
So one of my visions right now is sitting on the bus 15 minutes early, because my high school summer coach, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late.
You're late.
So at 9 o'clock, you got to be there. You got to be there at 8:45. So I'm on the bus. I'm sure at like 8:40.
That's no fun. You're not sweating anything. You're just being responsible. That's too fun. That's not fun.
Say it's a 9 o'clock bus. Pop Warner, current third base coach for the Cardinals, sitting in the front seat as the hitting coach.
Yep. My first one.
Brennan walking up, getting out of your Jeep.
Yep.
Walking up with, had to bring your pillow.
Yep.
Had to bring your fan.
Got it. Yep.
And you got your whole bag, like everything. Bat bag.
Zippers
travel
open.
Bag, everything. Yeah, the whole thing. The shirt's like, you had to wear a collared shirt, and you would like have it on like
sideways,
your collar in one arm, but not not on the other, just to prove a point.
Yes.
And so the bus is about to turn 9, and like Pop's looking at his watch, and he's like, as soon as it hits 9, close the doors. And it is, most of the time you're like 8:59, 59 and a half, and you step on the bus.
Yeah.
Right?
Good
That's
feeling.
always your thing. And then you walk down, you're laughing. Everybody's so
High
mad at you.
High fives all the way down.
But everybody's also mad at you at the same time.
For sure. For sure. I think everyone's rooting against me, let's be honest. How fun is that if I miss the bus, right?
So this time, 8:59, 59 and a half, turn to 9, doors close.
I'm somewhere driving on a sidewalk trying to get there.
Yeah. Doors close. You're standing outside as the doors close.
That's right.
Doors don't open back up.
They did not.
Bus pulls away.
Where did you go? Do you remember?
I know it was in Wisconsin.
Yes, it was.
It was about
8
hours.
I drove to Green Bay from Peoria. Wherever that, what was it, the Brewers?
I want to say it was Appleton.
Appleton, that might have been it. Appleton, yeah.
Or it might have been West Michigan. I don't know.
It was one of the
was
other.
a ways.
Yeah.
So
it was like
we pull off.
10 plus hours, whatever it was. Yeah.
So we pull off. No Brennan.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. No. Brennan's back, heading to the Jeep.
Mm-hmm.
Make your way.
Yep.
you get there with the bus.
I got there. Yep. I snuck right into the clubhouse.
Try to sneak in line like
nothing to see here.
Yeah. And then what happened?
Someone was like, "Hey, Josie wants to see our manager," and it was a very short talk. It was get your stuff and head back. That's about as long as it went. I thought, hey, come on, I made the effort. I'm here, right? Like, maybe just let me sit on a bench or something, right? No, go home. Go home.
And not only missed this series, but we were going to another.
Yeah.
Like we played 3 there, went to somewhere else for 3.
Yeah.
No, you missed the whole series.
Was not allowed to even be in attendance. Yeah. Yeah, that was.
So you drove back to Peoria that night.
All the way back.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then you had a 7-day vacation.
Yep. With those giant spiders around everywhere. Oh man.
So that's in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
That's Brennan Ryan.
That's a daily Brennan Ryan.
Daily Brennan.
Right?
The other Brennan Ryan can flat pick it at shortstop. I mean, one of the best defensive shortstops that I've ever seen.
Thank you.
And for sure played with, and that's not a knock to the other guys. I think if people played with you or against you, they saw it. I mean, here in St. Louis, we have a pretty good historical shortstop.
Of course.
Yeah. And his category is standalone. But man, I gotta tell you, what you were able to do at shortstop, and I saw it in the minor leagues, I saw it in the big leagues. It was incredible.
Thank you.
And that's what kept you in the game for as long as you were able to play. I mean, you're a guy that got over 10 years in the big leagues because your defense was remarkable.
Yeah. Well, thank you. A lot of people obviously helped along the way. But I can remember a conversation before my first big league spring training in 2006. I remember talking to my agent, and it was, look, you're trying to play for Tony LaRussa, right? That's the Jefe. So that's who you want to get in the good graces of. And what better way to do it than to be trustworthy at a premium position like shortstop? And as a young guy, if we all remember, Tony, really leaned on veterans. So it was a very difficult roster to crack as a young guy at a position of importance like shortstop. And so I remember that conversation because it was like, okay, a decision was made right then and there. I'm putting, so much attention and effort into the defensive side because I need him to see it. I need him to know it and feel it, that he can trust me, even with all the silliness that we just talked about that would go on outside the lines. And so it was a major, major focus for me going into that camp. Now, the next thing that was said was, you might want to consider getting there a week early. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And what ended up happening was I had a week to myself with, I had Mr. Kissel, right? I had George Kissel. I was lucky enough to get to know him for a couple years. But, Akendo obviously kind of was preaching the same word and all that stuff. And then to have that one-on-one with him where he just worked my butt into the ground and essentially just cleaned up footwork, and a lot of it that I've learned, and I'm coaching, my kids, it's so rarely is it a mechanical thing, put your foot here, get your, how often do you hear get your elbow up, like what does that even mean, right? But, I've had some great hitting instructors, and the ones that got to me the best were the ones that planted a seed. It was just a thought, and it could be something like, just pretend the infield's in and, there are a bunch of bowling pins and just knock one of them over, you hit it so hard, that kind of thing. And what it ends up doing is kind of fixing the plane of your swing or whatever it may be, as opposed to getting lost in the mechanics and all that stuff. And so getting back to Akendo, I remember getting back to my hotel room, the Embassy Suites, right? That was a big jump to go across the street from the DoubleTree, as we call it, the 2-tree. And then you get to big league spring training, you go over to the Embassy Suites, and writing notes so that I just wouldn't forget any of that stuff. And it was little things like catching the ball in the right eye on turning a double play, from shortstop. And I was always uncomfortable because I was always taught field over the left eye, and that brings your momentum towards first base and all that stuff. But if you get into that position as you're listening, and you catch it over your left eye and you're trying to throw a ball to second base, you're sort of angled straight down. How do you get underneath and push from that position? But if you catch it over your right eye, it's a natural transition into that throw to second base. And it just like little things, tiny little thing like that. I was like, oh my gosh, that just changed everything,
And that's the difference between minor league and major league, right?
Yeah.
I mean, those little things that people don't see on TV,
right?
That people would never know, but that they all do, and that comes from that top-notch instruction that we've been fortunate to have in the Cardinals, and not just on infield, but you can go down the line of catching and pitching and all those kinds of things. That makes that kind of difference. So so you had that week, and it cleaned you up, because this is the thing people don't realize. Pop Warner told me when we were in rookie ball, and he said, when you make it to your first major league spring training, just know that the reputation that you earn in those first few days you'll never shed. So like, you are labeled your first impression, and it will stick with you as being your home organization, as who drafted you and all that. Like, that label, you will never be able to shed that with the major with the major league staff. So having that week to clean it up, now that first impression comes first day. Now they're going, hey, he is catching over his right eye, and he does understand all these things, and so those things are going to help to evaluate and say, yeah, he's ready. Because you can instruct at the major league level a little, but there's not a lot, like, you got to be there. You got to be 99% of the way there. There isn't a, hey, we can bring you along. Not in this organization when you're expected to win and compete, So that's a big deal to have that week and to be. So what was that impression day one of camp? You've had those things. You've built that relationship with Mr. Kissel and Cheo. So you go in day one. How was it with Tony? Because I know Tony really well, and I know your personality really well, and I know how the relationship went. But that had to grow over time, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because even today, well, what do I get asked about, right?
Yeah, we'll get into that.
I figured we would. But I'll say the other one. The other one is that people think that Tony didn't like me, and that couldn't have been further from the truth. I mean, I looked at him like a second father. I was a young 25 and still needing some guidance. I mean. Little bit of ADD mixed in, and I see something shiny, I'm off in that direction. But he appreciated that. I think he saw that you can't have a bunch of robots. You need to have different personalities, and for it all to mesh and work, and there can be a happy balance there. And so he was very supportive of me, even through some of the attempted hazings that were going on. But that was again, the focus was earning his trust, and a lot of it's perception. It's funny, you look back at these moments and you're like, wow, that was a silly big moment right there. I remember a moment in the dugout, and someone else was told to get ready to pinch run, and so they're loose, and I was like, I'm not starting. That's me. That's got to be my role. I don't have anything else to offer right now. A defensive replacement. This is I think 2008, and but speaking to the perception side, I put a helmet on. Right, I'm jogging in the dugout. I'm stretching. I'm ready. I want this opportunity, and it's like to go pinch run for Yadier at first base late in the game. But I end up in there, and I think there was a muffed throw, whatever it was, and I did a funny slide, but got in there safe. And I remember getting to third with one out, infield in against the Cubs, and D-Rose at second base, and hit a chopper to him, and got in there and scored. But it was like, I did everything perfect in that one moment, and it just, you played it all back, and it looked like that was the right decision. This guy was ready to play. He was, and it seemed to have a carryover effect. The next year I ended up getting the opportunity to start and all that stuff. But you look at these little moments, and it's like, yeah, that mattered. And
well, and Tony notices those, right? So like, there's a moment that I recall vividly of myself. I was a starting pitcher for a half a year in my career.
Okay. Yep.
And I'm on deck. And there's a moment where it was a big part of the game. Mm-hmm. And Tony looks out at me and he pulls me back. And I knew why he was pulling me back, because it was less than 2 outs, and he pulled me back before he sent me to go up. And it was less than 2 outs, and there was a runner at third base, and he didn't think that I would know to go up there and direct the runner if there was a tag. And I knew it. Like, I could read him.
Right.
And I'm like, no, I'm ready for this moment. Like, I know the game. I pay attention. I want you to know that.
Right.
And so as I came down the steps, I walked by and I said, just so you know, I knew to go out there and to help the runner at home plate.
Right.
And I just kind of said it in passing, and I walked by, and you could tell he was kind of like, he read my mind, but I was ready for that moment. And that matters for Tony. Like, that's a big question. So I don't know if that, the next time maybe he trusted me a little bit more, but like, to let him know, like, hey, I'm not just in a tunnel vision here. Like, I'm aware of what's going on. And I know my role as an on deck guy isn't just to sit there and get loose. Like, if there's a play at the plate, I'm up there directing right, left, whatever you need to do. And those things for Tony, as somebody that paid so much attention to detail, it's earned, right? And like you said, as young guys, he doesn't trust young guys as much as the veterans, that he knows what he's going to get, have been vetted, have been through all that, and have shown that, it's a safer bet on his part.
Sure. You know what you're getting.
Yeah, you know what you're getting for sure. But by earning that, and doing that and taking the right route from, a high chopper and getting a read and sliding to the right side of it and doing all that, earned you that more trust and that longer leash with him.
For sure.
Especially for a guy like you, like to push buttons.
Right. Yeah.
Like Troy Gloss came over. Troy Gloss is a tough one.
Yeah.
And you and him.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You know what, though? I don't know if you recall, every time we got on the bus.
I definitely recall. So let's go back to Brennan Ryan with the pillow and the fan and the zipper undone and everything, completely out of whack.
Right.
Still in the big leagues.
Yeah.
With the same collared shirt that you had every trip, never changed it.
No.
Same white.
If I was getting hits, that same yellow.
Same white, it turned yellow.
Polo.
Yeah, same
suit.
It
got cut up.
Only one suit.
In Atlanta, I remember. Yeah.
So wearing that, walking back, and on the Major League bus, Tony didn't like the players to sit with the media, so we were crammed onto one bus.
Yep.
Everybody's doubled up.
Yep.
Except a couple people.
Right.
Yeah. And one of those was Troy Gloss, who really wanted people to know he needed his own. Yeah. You couldn't sit with him.
This is a 10-year play.
Yeah. And Brennan would come back with all of his gear.
Yeah.
And stand right next to Troy.
Straight-faced.
Every bus ride. And stand there while the bus is going. So now we got bumps and we're moving and we're swaying and we're falling into and so you're pushing into them.
Even better.
And you would just say, Troy, there's a open chair right there.
So that I can offended. So unbelievably offended. God, I'll tell you what, Yadier and his tourists, those guys, you wouldn't even see them. It would just be their feet in the air above the headrest, just dying. God, they loved it so much. And you know what? Sometimes you just play to an audience at 2,
Right.
So be it.
Right.
So be it. As long as they're tickled.
Every bus trip.
Every time.
So getting on the bus to go to the plane, getting off the plane to go to the hotel.
Yep.
Same story every time.
Do you mind if is that no? Oh, I'm sorry. Every time.
I don't see anywhere else that has a seat open but this one right next to you. And so you would end up standing there most of the time. And then where would you end up sitting? I don't even remember.
Oh, maybe the
would
bathroom.
Would you make a seat? Yeah.
Yeah. I stood a couple times.
Because you were definitely the last one on. So you were trying to take advantage of the open seat.
Yeah. Beer, we always say that. Beer in both hands, right?
Yeah.
Beer
young guys had to bring it on,
Yeah. I almost got hit by a bus because I remember I had to run. Well, at one point it was veteran bus, rookie bus before Tony made the switch. And Edmonds always rode on the rookie bus. At least I only played with him in the 07, but he rode with us because he said it made him feel younger or whatever it was. And I remember I debuted in Houston, and we got to a red light, and you could hear the first bus like, "Where's a beer?" That whole thing. And veteran bus, right? Of course. And you can imagine who those voices were in 07. And so Jimmy's like, "Dude, you got to run him the beer." And the bus doors open. I'm telling you, the light hit green when the doors open and someone timed that light. And I mean, I almost ended up like a bug in a windshield full of beer. But I got beer to the other bus, and then I came back and, again, got high fives from both sides all the way down the bus from the rookie guys. It was great. It was so funny. Almost died, though, on my debut.
Yeah. Yeah, that's... you got to get it over there. You got to get a job done.
Yeah,
yeah.
Low man on totem pole.
Yeah.
Got a lot of responsibilities.
You got to stop on that bus before you go to the rookie bus for that.
That's right. Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about your relationship with Albert, because I know Albert had a soft spot for you.
Yeah.
And it was an unlikely pairing.
Very.
Right. I think a lot of people would say that.
Oh yeah.
But talk about that relationship.
Yeah, he's very special to me. He, I think he's just kind in general to people. He's definitely, he's just he seems like, even more patient and I don't know if he got more polite, but he's just more approachable. He's just, he's probably not, maybe he wasn't as bothered over there in Anaheim, because I got to join up with him in Anaheim for a little bit there too. And he's just so mellow.
Well, here's the thing I want people to understand.
Yeah.
To be a superstar in this league is different, right? So for me to walk in every day and prepare myself to play was difficult because I had to be on my game every day.
Right.
I mean,
Same.
My talent wasn't, to the point where I could just roll out there and get it done. You had to be focused every day.
Sure.
That's a large level of preparation and anxiety and everything that goes with it.
Sure.
You were the same way.
Yep.
So you have to understand, to be a superstar in this league and to prepare yourself for, because there's 40,000 people out there that aren't coming to watch you and they're not coming to watch me, right? They're buying the ticket because they want to see him.
Right.
And Tony always made sure when we were home, Albert didn't have an off day.
Right.
Like that was something he always did, because he knew people in the stands were buying a ticket to come see him. Albert
umpires would remind me of that too when I question a call. Yeah.
So that, like, the Albert that we knew and got to see, like what he's preparing for every day when he walks into that building.
It's a whole other job.
The superstar in the face of Major League Baseball. When he was here in St. Louis, no doubt was the guy, right, in baseball.
Yeah.
And how he had to prepare himself for that, and the expectation and weight he had to put on his shoulders to go out and do it, I think allowed him that, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Not as approachable.
Yeah.
And you would say,
you're getting tugged in so many different
ways.
And, think about, like, people don't realize, like, so I played with Jeter, and his last year, like, you could see his face had aged. Like, like my didentist asked me to get an autographed ball or whatever. I'm not even kidding.
Right. Did you get it?
No.
No.
I didn't even return the time. I was like, what? Get out of here. Anyway, but he so there's so much asked of him.
Yeah.
Media's always, the visiting team wants to get that one interview with him, whatever it may be. So, and then he's doing a lot for charity and all that, right? And that takes time, and he's not it's all eye contact, it's all authentic, it's his true self. He cares about the kids. He's a special guy, and so, going back to my time here, some of the stuff was, look, everyone, I guess, has been hazed at some point or whatever it is, use another word, earn their stripes. And sometimes it gets taken a little too far. Not that he wouldn't, like, flick my ear or something. If what I remember him doing? I would fall asleep on the flights. Instantly. Oh my God. Right on takeoff.
I've never seen anybody that falls asleep. You and Colby Rasmus can fall asleep.
Yeah.
Like nobody else I've ever seen.
Before we're off the ground, that tug, I don't know what, but mouth open, and here comes Albert. Whether it was a peanut or a grape, always had to drain a couple in my mouth while I was asleep. Every single time. But that's all silly stuff. And he just, he kind of put his arm around me. I think, he saw what I could do defensively, and, he wasn't like, okay, this guy's just a knucklehead, right? He can help us, and then there were times where I got to hit in front of him when I was really going well, he'd, tell me a pitch to look for, help me out with that kind of stuff. But he really liked, and I mean, because this is what he told me, he really liked how I handled some of the tough stuff in that clubhouse. Because really, I mean, like, before you got there, I'm looking around and it's like, well, Yadi's the closest in age.
Skip.
Well, he's like a full-blown veteran,
yeah.
Skip's like, even his first week, he's already like a veteran kind of guy, right?
That's why he's managing now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And doing a great job.
He is. Yeah, he's right for the job.
Yeah.
And Chris Duncan. And Chris was a really important guy to me when I was coming up. And it's tough because he's not here anymore, and I'm reminded by little things that he would throw my way that helped me. Shoot, I wore his baseball pants like my first couple years in the big leagues, but yeah, Albert's always been extremely kind. I thought he broke my back when he found me in the clubhouse. He didn't know I got traded over there, and when we joined up in Anaheim or whatever it is now, LA. It's completely ridiculous. Yeah. But yeah, he picked me up off the ground and broke everything in my back, it felt like. But very special, and that's why I'm wearing the chain. He got the chain for me just because he thought that I, handled some stuff well, and he wanted to do something nice for someone. And I remember over a year before that, I had like my silver chain and stuff. And I'd said, I was going well at the time, in 18 at bats, I had some hits or whatever. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna chirp now. Like Albert's struggling at like 304, right? Yeah. And I'm like, hey Albert, if you need some hits, like, dude, I mean, hey, it's got hits in it, that whole thing. And he's like, pipe down Rook, that whole deal. But the point of all that was, like, a year and change later, someone in the clubhouse has given it to me for no apparent reason, and he interrupted them and threw me this pouch, and I caught the pouch, and I was like, I swear I thought he threw me a bunch of quarters, and because the thing is, I cut it down, but it was down on my belly button. Right, I remember it hitting me in the teeth when I was running to first and stuff, and it was this chain, and it was like, can I accept this? That whole thing. But for him to file that away, unprovoked, for over a year kind of thing, and then play Santa Claus, pretty cool. Yeah. And I noticed, like, if you go back and you look at that infield in Anaheim, you're like, huh, Callaspo's got a chain, Ibar's got a chain. Like, all these guys end up with chains and stuff. I know he bought Rasmus a studded out diamond, Breitling or whatever it was, Rolex or something like that. So he was playing Santa, pretty much every year with somebody. And that's just, that's who he was. And what a fun role to play if you got the pockets for it.
Well, and I think it goes back to, like, he saw you were an asset, right?
Sure.
And there's an investment there of,
right.
If you're not an asset, he ain't spending that time with you.
Yeah, right. Why waste your time? That kind of thing.
It's hey, this guy can help us win.
Yeah.
And we need him. And
he would tell you. He was very complimentary about the defense, and earning his respect was a big deal. I mean, I'm throwing to him like, dude, you're nervous. Like, you're throwing Albert Pujols,
What people don't realize is the way Tony ran things. Albert ran that locker room.
Yeah.
Chris Carpenter ran that locker room. He leaned on his veterans.
Yep.
And it wasn't just the superstars. There was other veterans in there that, Russ Springer, I can think of, like,
Big time.
He had people in different categories, that ran that clubhouse so that Tony didn't have to. So, I mean, if Albert, we've seen it. If Albert or Carp or somebody goes to Tony and says, hey, there's an issue here, that player is gone and will never come back.
Right.
Never, ever come back. So that's the power that he put in their hands to say, this is your team. Right. How do you want it to look, and how do you want it run? You guys do it.
Yep.
Was a big part of that.
For sure.
So one of those names that I just mentioned, I think, is the other question you always get asked.
Oh, yeah.
And
I think if you Google my name, his name comes right alongside it. Like, you can't avoid it. It's Not that I'm trying to or anything.
I mean, you told this story at fantasy camp last year, and I was literally crying. I was laughing so hard. And so we have to go back to it. And here's the thing about Brendan Ryan is his stories take forever, very detailed.
Sure.
Yeah, so this is going to be great. Chris Carpenter.
Yeah.
He was tough.
Yeah.
Tough teammate.
Yeah.
Great teammate.
Uh-huh.
But extremely tough.
Unbelievable pitch. Well, tough.
It came with it, right? Like it was earned, kind of like Albert. Right. Like Albert wasn't like he was to you to everybody. You had to earn that.
Yes.
You had to get into that circle. Yep. Carp was like that.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Carp since have had some great conversations about it. And he just says, look, the way I was brought up in the game, that's the way it was done. And it was important for me to carry that on because that's how I thought it was.
Yeah. And that's his identity too, right?
And it's also how I had to prepare myself to play every day.
Yeah.
I had to be like that.
Right.
And I'll tell you, I appreciate it because we don't win without Chris Carpenter like that. Dude, I mean, that is a intensity and a like when you see Chris Carpenter walking down the hall, you act differently.
Right.
You talk differently.
That's for sure.
You're
Walk
paying
a little
attention.
taller,
like,
straighter.
did I work out hard enough? He was in there watching me.
Right.
It was my bullpen quality enough.
Right.
He held everybody to that standard of what he held himself to.
Yeah.
And it pushed everybody. There's no doubt.
Sure.
And there is, I mean,
he wasn't in the clubhouse like goofing off during games either.
No.
Right? I mean, he's there.
He's on the top rail.
Right.
Educating, teaching.
Yep.
He's what Waino is.
Yep.
You look at Waino right now.
Yep.
That's what's happening.
Yep.
We've had some great ones in this organization. Bob Gibson, probably the top of them. But I'm going to tell you right now, if there's a guy you need to win a game,
oh man,
Chris Carpenter's in that.
I don't want that at that.
in the top of that list.
Xing both sides, like no one was doing
yelling
that really
at you
then
while you're out there.
Yeah.
Like, so speaking of yelling at,
okay, yeah.
so let's revisit this.
Yeah.
We're in Cincinnati, 2010.
Yep.
ESPN game.
Yeah.
National TV.
Yep.
Carps.
Big series.
Like
the last day of August or the first day of September kind of thing.
When they end up Cincinnati, we end up not in the playoffs. They end up Cincinnati's in the playoffs.
And we're just behind them.
We're close.
Within a game or two.
Yeah.
You remember what we did that series?
I don't.
We swept.
Did we?
In Cincy. We swept them. Yeah.
Well, we're not here to talk about that.
No. Yeah, that's
So Chris Carpenter starting, just to set the stage. Carp's super intense, especially on game days.
Yep.
Don't talk to him.
Right.
Stay out of his way.
Right.
Let him do his thing.
Yep. No eye contact.
Be ready.
Yeah.
So let's pick it up there. Cincinnati.
Yep.
National anthem, ish is going on. Your mindset as you're getting ready to go play shortstop on ESPN behind Chris Carpenter.
Okay, so like huge series. We're all geared up for this. We know how important this one is. I mean, we lined up our rotation, for that series, and had Carp, Waino, Pinheiro maybe, or Smoltz. I think Smoltz might have thrown the third one. So regardless, getting ready for the game, and there's one batting cage in there, no TV, so you're kind of on your own. And Big Mac's our hitting coach, so he's in there flipping, sort of flipping. He had a hard time with that, but so I get ready, I'm dressed and everything, and I go out to the dugout. I run, I'm ready, but I'm like, man, I haven't hit in a while, and the other guys should be done by now. I look at the clock. I'm like, yeah, I got time. We're gonna hit in the first inning anyway. And so I run back up the ramp, into the cage.
Okay, so the batting cage is not close.
It's not
like some of these are
connected.
right behind the dugout. This is you actually go to the locker room.
Yes.
Then turn.
Right.
So
like
it's a part of the locker room, which is up, doors closed. Like you got to go in, you got to go down the hallway, and then go into the door to the batting cage. Yeah.
It's not. Yeah.
Not close.
So even like crowd noise, you're not even around for any of it. And so in a vacuum, and so what happened was I didn't like the flips I got. I got like, how do you get beamed 3 times in flips, right? Like, come on. So it was like a bunch of hit and runs, and I'm like, I'm not ready to go. So, okay, all right. So I head back to the cage. Shooter's in there, who's our BP guy. And I, after like the 4th or 5th swing, I start feeling good, and I kind of get lost in the moment a little bit. Okay, now back to the game. We end up with a 5-pitch first inning. It was either 5 or 6 pitches. and boom, we're out there on defense. Well, the 2 games or whatever it was before that, okay, no, I'm going to tell that part next. So I'm lost in the cage, and Big Sweat, Dennis Reyes, comes running in broken English, and he's like, "Ryan, you didn't go to the dugout," all that stuff. And I'm like, "Huh?" He's like, "They're on the field. You got to go, man," all that stuff. And I'm like, "Yeah, right, dude. You're just messing with me. Like, one of the bullpen guys told you to come in and say that to me or whatever." And then I stop. I'm like, I better go check, right? I go check, and I see, you can only see feet because the overhang of the stands. So I'm like running down the ramp, and I see, oh, there's Yadi's feet. Oh, Carp's feet on the mound. Oh, there's Albert's feet. And then I see everyone in the field, and no shortstop. And so, okay, here's where the nightmare really, really, really begins. Okay, so now I'm like, oh man, I better get out there, duh. And as I'm running past Tony, Dave Duncan, Joe Patini, McKay, the whole crew, and all the guys on the bench, by the way, Carpenter's screaming at Schumacher. Where is he in more words or less? And Skip's like, it's probably an ice cream. Ryan, with ice cream, they got a great ice cream selection here. And so okay, now I'm running down the dugout, or up the dugout, I should say, and it occurs to me, oh dear God, my glove is in my locker, because Mike Aldretti had his son's AAU team playing in a tournament in Cincy, so they were there in BP, and they all wanted to try on my glove and all that stuff, and I was like, sorry. You could wreck my car. Don't touch my glove. Right. Yeah, and so I brought it in and sat it on my chair, and I'm like, well, now cut to me back running through the dugout. I'm like, well, that's not happening. Let me just make sure I grab a right-handed throwing glove. So as I'm running, I don't break stride. I grab a black mitt, and it was Aaron Miles' infield glove. I'm like, okay, it'll work. It's a second baseman's glove, a little small. So be it. I'm not breaking stride. I ran out there to shortstop. I'm like, oh, man. Now, again, all the warm-up pitches, everything. It's all we're back from commercials.
Yeah, ball's been thrown down a second.
Oh, right. Yeah, without me. And I get to short, and my shoelaces were completely untied. I'm talking an inch and a half of the wick of the end of the shoelace sticking out of, oh God. And so I'm like, oh man, nope, not doing it. I put my pants right over my laces as fast as I could. We're rolling with this. And knowing, hey man, if ball gets deep in the 6 hole, this could get really interesting. And I look up from putting my pant leg over my laces to hide my situation, and Carpenter is staring at me, and he goes, again in more or less words, screaming at the top of his lungs. I mean, not subtle, which is what I was trying to be. Are you gonna tie him? And I was like, I don't know what to do. Try not to bring any attention to this, and you're screaming at me. He said it again. I turned around. I showed my back to him, and he got on the mound, and off we went. What happens? First guy, Phillips, comes up and hits a ground ball to the left side of the infield. I break to my backhand. D-Row catches it, throws it to first. We got 1 out. Like, wow. Oh, boy. Next guy flies out to center. And then the next guy hits a ground ball to the left side of the infield again, and it went to D-Row. He gets the 3rd out. I'm like, wow, we got through it. I get to go tie my shoes now. That's good. But hey, how about that? We all lived through that. Good for you guys.
But didn't you switch your glove out?
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the nightmare was deeper. So after I didn't tie my shoes, and he screamed at me, and I turned around. He gets on the mound, and he's about to throw the first pitch, gets his sign, and then, so Aaron Miles saw what was going on in the dugout. And he's like, he's got my glove. I better go grab his. Seems like the logical thing to do. And so he runs back into the clubhouse. Now, cut to Carp. He's got his sign. He's about to rock back. And then Miles, he's now at the top step screaming at me, shaking my glove like, I found it. I got it. I found it. I got the lucky ticket kind of thing. And I'm like, no. Oh, it's too late now. Everyone knows I don't have my... So he throws it to me. It's like skipping on the dirt and stuff.
Carp has to step off.
Carp had to step off the mound. I got my glove now. I got to throw it back to him. I mean, it just wouldn't end. We get through the inning, and Carp I think it was the hardest pitch he threw that day was his glove against the end of the dugout. And all I heard was, Ryan, come here. I was like, oh, man, here we go.
In the tunnel.
Yep. So what happens? The whole world gets a front row seat.
Well, he tried to take you out where nobody could see
down the steps.
Yeah,
right.
But the camera
well is on the home plate side.
Had a great view, just of you. Oh. I don't think it really got him, but it just had your face.
Imagine like trying to see, like a constellation or something with a telescope. Like they could not have been more zoomed in on the two of us, and I just looked like a whipped dog. Like I mean, I didn't say anything.
No,
I just said okay. That was all I said at the very end. It's either okay or yes, sir. I don't know what I said. I just wanted it to end. I can't say anything that was said. I do remember the last few words. And it was, well, let's just say it didn't happen again, And,
right. You learned your lesson.
I did, but that was...
Oh, man.
You know what, though? Was really cool. I mentioned to you before, and we laugh about it, and it was a nightmare. There's no other way to say it. I mean, we all had that nightmare. I kind of lived it. And after the game in the dugout, or in my hotel room, I mean, it was like the whole team stopped by the room just to check in, and because they knew it was a little traumatizing, and I did not have a good game. I was shaken. I didn't, but it was very meaningful to have all those guys come in and sort of check in on me and hang out and all that stuff. And then, of course, less than 24 hours later, we're in a big brawl with the Reds. And it was sort of, semi-forgotten about. I guess not really, because, it's kind of the first thing I'm asked about now. But wow, what a 48 hours that was. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So... your time here with St. Louis comes to an end, and you get traded.
By the way, not long after that. I should say, a couple months after that.
Let's revisit that time when I said Carpenter had a lot of pull, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And we don't know if that was it.
No,
it probably was.
I would never blame him.
Probably 100% was it. So you get traded to Seattle. Yeah. It was the off season, correct?
Yeah.
What is that like? The organization.
I think people forgot there was a team up there, but it was a lot,
And this is after 2010.
Yeah, in the off season, I was with my buddy. We're doing fantasy football at the local sports bar, and I remember getting a call from Mo, and Mo was just the best. He, I'm not saying that because I'm here. I really respect what he did for me, giving me a shot, all that stuff. But he reached out to me. He was very fair and open. He, at that time he was saying, we're probably going to trade you and all that stuff. Be prepared for it, that kind of thing. And we'll do the best we can to, trade you somewhere where you can have an opportunity. And that's exactly what he did. There was, I remember struggling and getting a phone call from him in my hotel room and him just trying to settle me down. It's going to be all right. You're not going anywhere. That kind of thing. And so he was great to me, but off we go. We're a Mariner now. And I go from, being a wet behind the ears or whatever to kind of into a leadership role immediately. And so that was different and challenging in itself because, there wasn't a lot of prep for that. Usually, years under your belt preps you. But off we go and leaving this culture, I never saw anything like the culture here until I got to the next team, which was the Yankees. And it was very, very similar to hear the attention to detail, just mindset, focus, demeanor, just all of it. You just kind of felt like, you just felt it was 1-0 in the first before the game started when I played for those two teams. And, there's a lot of reasons for that. Yeah. But it was a great city. I loved living there, the food, the people. And it was a bummer because they're starving for a winner there. They still are. And they were good fans. They were supportive when they could boo and that kind of thing. And it was great though.
So you're with the Cardinals for, I always say, like, I went from a boy to a man in this organization. You were the same way. Yep. It's hard to leave here, and then especially to watch the next year, the 2011 team go on that run and win. Like, what? Not to make it personal, but that's hard, right?
For sure.
It's you're friends, and you want people to do well, but it's also that, like, man, I was a part of that building process.
Could have been there, kind of thing, right?
Been there,
yeah, like and I'm not throwing any shade or meaning to, but it wasn't like they brought in a $20 million shortstop, right? They brought in Ryan Terrio, and Cosmo was playing, right? And then Furcal ended up coming. But yeah, I mean, it was tough, but then it's like, again, these are guys you grew up with, sort of, but to be perfectly honest, like, my entire family, no one was rooting for the Cardinals. Nobody, I couldn't help it because it's like, what are you going to do? Root against, Freezer? Like, when he comes up for his at-bat or something? Like, no chance. So a little bittersweet, but, sometimes you can just kind of choose how you want to feel. And it's like, jealousy could easily creep in, and that would have been the most amazing experience of all time. And but so what? It's humble pie. I mean, hey, I debuted in 07. They won it in 06. I was on the 40-man. I could have been called up from Memphis and wasn't, and that's okay. Mentally, probably wasn't ready for it, but it would have been a cool experience, and I would have gotten a free ring. Oh well, minus the taxes, I guess. But bookends, missed the series, and then fast forward to New York. I get traded to the Cubs, get let go of the Cubs because they couldn't get rid of Baez or something weird. You believe that? And then they go ahead and win the World Series. So 3 times is kind of like, could have been right there. Not that it would have gone the same. I might have messed it up or whatever, but
forgot your glove or
exactly.
Your shoes untied.
Exactly.
Well, we gotta get you to your next stop here. I want to end with one thing. We did fantasy camp together here in St. Louis, and it was your first time you came back. Yeah. And I remember being on the field with you for that ceremony before, and you said it essentially, you said, this heals a lot of wounds. Yeah. And it's great to be back. Yeah. And like, it was hard, right? It was hard leaving here and the way it happened, because I grew up here and I wanted to be here forever. I want to be a part of this success. Right. And it hurt, but I got to do other things. But now coming back and being embraced by the fans, embraced by the organization. Yep. Here you are now. The next year you went and announced the draft pick for the Cardinals. So things have happened very quickly in terms of getting back in. And how important is that to you?
Well, I just you don't feel deserving, honestly. I don't know why or how, and that's why I just don't say no. Larry and Joe call, the answer's yes. Of course, I'll do anything I can to be there. But I mean, it was tough because you're traded away, right? You're excited to go somewhere, but then you're also like, well, they didn't want me anymore, and that's what I knew, and I whatever statistics, all that stuff, it's like kind of gone. You're like starting over again in some ways. So that part's scary, but yeah, I mean, it was, there was people didn't understand the relationship that I had with Tony, and I got traded for a single A pitcher, right, with a 10.5 ERA, and I was at the time a starting shortstop. So make sense of that. And so it was like, well, he's a cancer in the clubhouse. He's, this and that. Easy things to just throw out there, but just weren't the case. But I think people were trying to sort of make sense of it, and that's kind of how it got labeled, or whatever you want to say. And that, quite honestly, hurt my feelings. I mean, you know, I care about what people think about me, and probably more than I should. So to come back and just be, you know, welcomed the way I have, and see so many faces that you haven't seen for a long time, and just how excited people have been to see you again, and that kind of thing. It was like kind of heart healing. Yeah, it was very meaningful for me, and I think when they showed that highlight reel and played my walk-up song, like I just was like, wow. They honestly, in like 45 seconds, they validated my whole baseball life. Like I'll be forever thankful. Yeah. That's
awesome. Well,
thanks.
As someone that's known you for almost 20 years and got to share the field with you, and one thing I've learned about Brendan Ryan: don't ever do an autograph session or photo day with Brendan in your group, because you'll be out there forever and you'll look like the bad guy because he's talking to every fan
for sure
forever.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you, man. It's been awesome to watch your career here in St. Louis, and also elsewhere, and to have you come back here is great. To have you here, this is where you belong, and so we're happy to have you.
Love you, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's going to be a wrap on Brendan Ryan. You can check out any of our podcasts that we've done this year, last year, anywhere you get your podcast. We have it. We also have it on the Cardinals YouTube channel. You can watch the video version, which I would recommend this one. Brendan does a good job on being animated, and we had a great time. So, Brendan, thanks again, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me.